Hello everyone, welcome back to this video. We are going to complete the entire 7th chapter in this video, which is knowledge of the absolute. So we left at the 20th shlok in the last video and we're going to start with the 21st shlok in this video. And we are going to complete the entire 30 shloks of this chapter in this video. So coming to the 21st shlok, which says, I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord as super soul in everyone's heart understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, He does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusionary energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord as Super Soul does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, He gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes. But His ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad Gita, one should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto Him. That will make man happy. Both the living entity and the demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world goes to the demigods, as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning Saraswati. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod, and so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity towards a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord or the Super Soul who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literature, it is stated the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Super Soul is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. Now coming to the 22nd shlok, which says, endowed with such a faith, he endeavours to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Now coming to the explanation of this shlok. The demigods cannot award benedictions to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So the worship of demigods and achievement of desired results are due not to the demigods but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigods for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in the need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee. A living entity goes to the demigods usually because he is mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. In the Chaitanya Karitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the worship of a demigod cannot be on the same platform, because worship of the demigod is material and devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world, rather than engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Now coming to the 23rd slok, which says, men of small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme abode. Now coming to the explanation of this slok. Some commentators on the Bhagavad Gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the Supreme Lord. But here it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to the different planetary systems where various demigods are situated. Just as a worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, or the worshipper of the demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anyone wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain that particular god's planet. It is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is denied here. For it is clearly stated that the worshippers of demigods go to different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to Supreme Planet of the Personality of Godhead. Here the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshipping them. However, worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they don't know to what part of the body foods must be supplied. Some of them are so foolish that they can claim that there are many paths and many ways to supply food. This isn't very sanguine. Can anyone supply food to the body through the ears or eyes? They do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord, and in their ignorance they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and a competitor of the Supreme Lord. The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable because within this material world the planets, the demigods and their worshippers are all perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by worshipping demigods are perishable, and therefore such worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Because the pure devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness in devotional service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal blissful existence that is full of knowledge, his achievements and those of the common worshipper of the demigods are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, his flavor is unlimited, his mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. Now coming to the 24th slok, which says, unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal before, and now I have assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know that my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Now coming to the explanation of this slok. Those who are worshippers of demigods have been described as less intelligent persons, and here the impersonalists are similarly described. Lord Krishna in his personal form is here speaking before Arjun, and still due to ignorance, impersonalists argue that the Supreme Lord ultimately has no form. Yamunacharya, a great devotee of the Lord in the disciplinic succession of Ramanujacharya, has written a very appropriate verse in this connection. He says, my dear Lord, devotees like Vyasadeva and Narad know you to be the personality of Godhead. By understanding different Vedic literatures, one can come to know your characteristics, your form and your activities, and one can thus understand that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, the demons, the non-devotees, cannot understand you. They are unable to understand you. However expert such non-devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and the Upanishads and other Vedic literatures, it is not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samiti, it is stated that the personality of Godhead cannot be understood simply by study of the Vedanta literature. Only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord can the personality of the Supreme be known. Therefore, in this verse, it is clearly stated that not only are the worshippers of the demigods less intelligent, but those non-devotees who are engaged in Vedanta and speculation on Vedic literature without any tinge of true Krishna consciousness are also less intelligent, and for them it is not possible to understand God's personal nature. Persons who are under the impression that the absolute truth is impersonal, as described as abudhaya, which means those who do not know the ultimate feature of the absolute truth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the supreme realization begins from the impersonal Brahman and then rises to the localized super soul. but the ultimate word in the absolute truth is the personality of Godhead. The fact is that no one can understand Krishna without rendering devotional service and without developing Krishna consciousness. If one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of the Lord, he can understand the greatness of Lord's personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are unable to know you, that means they are unable to know the Lord. Even they continue to study the Vedas for many years. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna or his form, quality or name simply by mental speculation or by discussing Vedic literature. One must understand him by devotional service. When one is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, beginning by chanting the Maha Mantra, which is Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, then only one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Non-devotee impersonalists think that Krishna has a body made of this material nature and that all his activities, his form and everything are Maya. These impersonalists are known as Mayavadis. They do not know the ultimate truth. The 20th verse clearly states, those who are blinded by lusty desire surrender unto the different demigods. It is accepted that besides the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are demigods who have their different planets, and the Lord also has a planet. As stated in the 23rd verse, the worshippers of the demigods go to the different planets of the demigods, and those who are devotees of Lord Krishna go to the Krishnalok planet. Although this is clearly stated, the foolish impersonalists still maintain that the Lord is formless and that these forms are impositions. From the study of the Gita, does it appear that the demigods and their abodes are impersonal? Clearly, neither the demigods nor Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are impersonal. They are all persons. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and he has its own planet, and the demigods have theirs. Therefore, the monistic contention that ultimate truth is formless and that form is imposed does not hold true. It is clearly stated here that it is not imposed. From the Bhagavad Gita, we can clearly understand that the forms of the demigods and the form of the Supreme Lord are simultaneously existing, and that Lord Krishna is eternal blissful knowledge. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Absolute Truth, by nature full of blissful pleasure, and that he is the reservoir of unlimited auspicious qualities. And in the Gita, the Lord says that although he is unborn, he still appears. These are the facts that we should understand from the Bhagavad Gita. We cannot understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be impersonal. The imposition theory of the impersonalist monist is false as far as the statements of the Gita are concerned. It is clear herein that the Supreme Absolute Truth, Lord Krishna, has both form and personality. Now coming to the 25th slok, it says, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Now coming to the explanation of this slok. It may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone when he was present on this earth, then how can it be said that he is not manifest to everyone? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of Kurus, when Sisupala spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported him and proclaimed him to be the Supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the Supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. He was not manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure, but to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his eternal potency. In the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yoga Maya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. This Yoga Maya curtain is also confirmed in the Isopanishad, in which the devotee prays, O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray to you to maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya. The Brahma Jyoti is the covering of the eternal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his transcendental form of bliss and knowledge is covered by his eternal potency of the Brahma Jyoti, and the less intelligent impersonalist cannot see the Supreme on this account. Also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is this prayer by Brahma, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mystery, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world. You are always expanding your eternal potency and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world or even the planets, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency although you are present before them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is not only unborn but also Avyaya, inexhaustible. His eternal form is bliss and knowledge, and his energies are all inexhaustible. Now coming to the 26th slok, which says, O Arjun, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. Now coming to the explanation of this slok. Here the question of personality and impersonality is clearly stated. If Krishna, the form of Supreme Personality of Godhead, were Maya, material, as the impersonalists consider him to be, then like the living entity, he would change his body and forget everything about his past life. Anyone with a material body cannot remember his past life, nor can he foretell his future life, nor can he predict the outcome of his present life. Therefore, he cannot know what is happening in past, present and future. Unless one is liberated from material contamination, he cannot know past, present and future. Unlike the ordinary human being, Lord Krishna clearly says that he completely knows what happened in the past, what is happening in the present and what will happen in the future. In the 4th chapter, we have seen that Lord Krishna remembers instructing Vishwasvan, the sun god, millions of years ago. Krishna knows every living entity because he is situated in every living being's heart as the super soul. But despite his presence in every living entity as super soul and his presence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the less intelligent, even if able to realize the impersonal Brahman, cannot realize Sri Krishna as the Supreme Person. Certainly the transcendental body of Sri Krishna is not perishable. He is just like the sun and Maya is like a cloud. In the material world we can see that there is the sun and that there are clouds and different stars and planets. The clouds may cover all these in the sky, but this covering is only apparent to our limited vision. The sun, moon and stars are not actually covered. Similarly, Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord. By his eternal potency, he is not manifest to the less intelligent class of men. As it is stated in the 3rd verse of this chapter, out of millions and millions of men, some try to become perfect by this human form of life, and out of thousands and thousands of such perfected men, hardly one can understand what Lord Krishna is. Even if one is perfected by realization of impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma, he cannot possibly understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, without being in Krishna consciousness. Now coming to the 27th slok, which says, O scion of Bharat, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. The real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by the illusionary energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illusionary energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. Due to desire and hate, the ignorant persons want to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Shri Krishna appears by his eternal potencies, but those who are deluded by duality and nescience think that Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. This is their misfortune. Such deluded persons dwell into dualities of dishonor and honor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc. Those who are so deluded by dualities are completely foolish and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now coming to the 28th slok, which says, persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Now coming to the explanation of this slok. Those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, aesthetic, foolish and deceitful, it is very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously, and who have conquered sinful reactions can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness in the association of pure devotees, and for in the association of great devotees one can be delivered from delusion. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that if one actually wants to be liberated, he must render service to the devotees. But one who associates with the materialistic people is on the path leading to the darkest regions of existence. All these devotees of the Lord transport this earth just to recover the conditioned souls from their delusion. The impersonalists do not know that forgetting their constitutional position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord is the greatest violation of God's law. Unless one is reinstated in its own constitutional position, it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality or to be fully engaged in His transcendental loving service with determination. Now coming to the 29th slok, which says, intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. Now coming to the explanation of this slok. Birth, death, old age and diseases affect this material body but not the spiritual body. There is no birth, death, old age and disease for the spiritual body. So one who attains a spiritual body becomes one of the associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engages in eternal devotional service is really liberated. It is said that one should understand that he is Brahman spirit soul. This Brahman conception of life is also in the devotional service as described in this verse. The pure devotees are transcendentally situated on the Brahman platform and they know everything about transcendental activities. 4 kinds of impure devotees who engage themselves in the transcendental service of the Lord achieve their respective goals. And by the grace of the Supreme Lord, when they are fully Krishna conscious, they actually enjoy spiritual association with the Supreme Lord. But those who are worshippers of demigods never reach the Supreme Lord in His supreme planet. Even the less intelligent Brahman realized persons cannot reach the supreme planet of Krishna known as Golak Vrindavan. Only persons who perform activities in Krishna consciousness are actually entitled to be called Brahman because they are actually endeavoring to reach out the Krishna's planet. Such persons have no misgivings about Krishna and thus they are factually Brahman. Those who are engaged in worshipping the form or akara of the Lord, or those who are engaged in meditation on the Lord simply for liberation from material bondage, also know by the grace of the Lord the purpose of Brahman, Adibhuta, as explained by the Lord in the next chapter. Now coming to the 30th slok, which says, those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation, of the demigods and of the methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Now coming to the explanation of this slok. Persons acting in Krishna consciousness are never deviated from the path of entirely understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is the governing principle of the material manifestation and even of the demigods. Gradually, by such transcendental association, one becomes convinced of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the time of death, such Krishna conscious person can never forget Krishna. Naturally, he is thus promoted to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Golak Vrindavan. This 7th chapter particularly explains how one can become a fully Krishna conscious person. The beginning of Krishna consciousness is association of persons who are Krishna conscious. Such association is spiritual and puts one directly to touch with the Supreme Lord. And by His grace, one can understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, one can really understand the constitutional position of the living entity and how the living entity forgets Krishna and becomes entangled in material activities. By gradual development of Krishna consciousness and good association, the living entity can understand that due to forgetfulness of Krishna, he has become conditioned by the laws of material nature. He can also understand that this human form of life is an opportunity to regain Krishna consciousness and that it should be fully utilized to attain the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. Many subjects have been discussed in this chapter: the man in distress, the inquisitive man, the man in want of material necessities, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Paramatma, liberation from birth, death and diseases, and worship of the Supreme Lord. However, he who is actually elevated in Krishna consciousness does not care for the different processes. He simply directs engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and thereby factually attains his constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Lord Krishna. In such a situation, he takes pleasure in hearing and glorifying the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. He is convinced that by doing so, all his objectives will be fulfilled. This determined faith is called Dhrit Vrata, and this is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga. or transcendental loving service. That is the verdict of all scriptures. The 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is the substance of that conviction. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purpose to the 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of knowledge of the Absolute. So we are going to end this video with this 7th chapter here, and we have covered all the 30 shlokas of this chapter, and with this we complete the knowledge of the Absolute chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and we are going to begin with the 8th chapter in the next video, which is attaining the Supreme. My name is Disha, and I will see you all in the next video.